Anyways, though, meat and potatoes of this and why y'all are likely tuning in is we're going to be talking about the new Chiefs for the new champions, the new guys kind of taking over. And really, guys, I just wanted to know if we're buying the hype on either one of these coaches. We'll look at some of the recruits that they lost, some of the recruits that they added, and it's quite a bit. So these teams that they are now taking over are vastly different than what they've been in the previous season. But to answer the initial question, Nathan, are you buying the hype of either one of these coaches?
Look, okay, I'm not.
Be careful, Nathan.
Yeah, for those of y'all who don't know, Dalton is a big Alabama fan, and for anybody out there, I'm the only one who's allowed to give him shit about being a bandwagon because I know him and I'm his friend. But other than that, and we're
I
like
went to
brothers.
school there.
I was gonna say, other than that, Dalton is a true Alabama fan, so you can't really call him a bandwagon. It's not his fault that they've been good his entire life. Their dad is an Alabama fan, so Dalton was raised in an Alabama household. So let's just square that right
DJ's
here, right
the
now.
runt. I don't know what's
Yeah,
wrong with him.
DJ's the run of the family
I really am. I grew up in the same household in
and hates
Alabama.
Alabama.
It's not that I hate them. It's I loathe them.
And and we hate him too.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I
It's fine.
think
Reminds me, I need to call
Fucking
mom and
Bailey.
dad.
I don't know. I don't. Let's start with Kellen DeBoer. I think he's a good football coach, but what I think that, and no offense, Dalton, but what I think Alabama fans need to realize is that you might lose 2 or 3 games this year because it's not because you're a bad football team. It's because one of the factors what made Alabama so good in late into football games is the experience and the knowledge that Nick Saban had to be able to coach and make changes on a defensive side of the ball during in the middle of football games. I mean, he I hate to say it, but he's one of the best college, if not the best college football coach ever of all time.
We can agree on
And
that.
and I
Something.
you lose that you lose
Yeah.
that so that's going to be a missing part from the Alabama team. So like what I would like to see is in games and situations like that, can DeBoer coach that team to get a win that a team 2 years ago that Alabama would have got under Saban. But they also the good thing was that they kept Jalen Milroe. That was a big success. DeBoer, I think, did a good job of doing that. But what hurts is they lost Isaiah Bond. Luckily, he came to Texas, but that's a big loss. He's a good wide receiver. That's a big loss for Alabama. But I think DeBoer was a good hire. I do. But if he loses 3 games this year, Alabama does not need to call for his head. You just got to give him time, give him in there, let him run the program the way he runs his programs, and you just got to understand that this is Kellen DeBoer, not Nick Saban. That's my stand. I still think that Alabama will be a great program. Still think they'll be a good football team. They'll be a great football team. But I just think that Bama fans need to realize that if you lose 3 games, it's not a bad year because you don't have the Saban factor, and that's that's just me giving praise to how good of a coach Nick Saban was. So it hurts to lose him, and everyone knew it was coming. We just didn't know when it was going to come that he was going to retire. So that's kind of the hump that they have to get over, just because of how good of a coach he was and a mentor, and how well the players played for him. So you got to give DeBoer time, and if he loses 3 games, it's not the end of the world. That's my thought.
Look, my thing is if we have a game within 2 touchdowns, it's a fucking bad year. Okay, that's all I gotta say. And also, by the way, what the fuck having 3 losses? Like Kalen DeBoer, if that happens, will be mutilated by the Alabama fans. Like he truly will be. I mean, Nick Saban is like he lost one game and it's just like immediately get somebody fucking else, and then like
Well,
fucking people fucking sober up and sleep it off, and they're
yeah,
like, what the fuck was I doing? I don't know. Fucking Nick Saban.
yeah. That's
Like,
what worries me with Alabama fans. Like you got to realize the first year that Nick Saban was the head coach at Alabama, he lost to University of Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, I think there's definitely be growing pains here. But I personally can say that I feel And I feel like there's a little bit of bias in there, a little bit. There's a lot, but bias aside, and I feel like a lot of people can agree with me. I still feel like I'm more confident with Kalen DeBoer than I am with Sharon Moore. Now I know like people will say otherwise, and it's like, did you see what Sharon Moore? Guys, quit living in the fucking past. Sharon Moore literally is coming into a program that currently ranks 16th in recruiting this year with 0 5 stars. They only have, I think, one recruiting returner on the offense and four returning guys on the defense, or vice versa. I might have that backwards. But they've
No,
only got
I think you're right. They've lost pretty much everybody. You're
right,
right though.
and they're 16th in recruiting with 0 5 stars coming into this program for this
And
year.
that conference only got better.
Only got better with Oregon coming into it. Tell me I'm wrong. That is fine. I don't care. At the end of the day, you got to stop living in the past, because if you live in the past, you will say, "Oh, Michigan won the national championship last year." Yeah, so did fucking LSU with Joe Burrow. Look what
That
the
is
fuck happened to
true.
them.
Look at
You know
that
what I'm
fall off.
saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is with Michigan, and now you got a new head coach that's coming in. They're already facing all these violations. Shit's not looking good for recruits. They don't want to go to a program that's fucking starting to crumble. There's a lot of question marks there. So Sharon Moore, I got a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great coach. But with Kalen DeBoer, we've seen what he's done with programs.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a track record of success at multiple programs, including turning around Fresno State and leading Washington to what was a good chance at winning the national championship. I mean, he has the ability to transform teams, bringing in great coaches, Kane Womack, and what he's done at Indiana, taking as a defensive coordinator there at Indiana back in 2020. He took that team literally to the top 12, literally going for a bowl game in something that they had never been that successful before. So he's bringing in and surrounding himself with great staff. So it's not just the fact that we're just talking about Kalen DeBoer, but it's who he's surrounding himself with. And they currently
Yeah.
rank, and like people say, oh, like, and you're right, we did lose Isaiah Bond, we did lose
So
was it
it's like
Najee
on
Black?
this on your screen now, you can kind of see I've included the list. Y'all lost 20 players through the transfer portal, as well as 10 additional players who got drafted, but then kind of the addition through the transfer portal. This is not
Right.
the freshman that you've pulled in. Y'all did have a decently good recruiting class come in.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
they did.
only talking about the transfer portal. Y'all only replaced 30 players that you lost, 20 through the transfer portal, 4 of which were 5-star players, with only 6 players. Lost 30, replaced them with 6. Everyone else is kind of a freshman on this team that's coming in. So I do agree.
Do you think that's because of the little late hire of bringing DeBoer in? Like what I was trying to say is like they brought in DeBoer a little late, so like he didn't have the time. Let's say that Steve Sarkisian or Dabo Sweeney or all the other coaches had to recruit those transfer portal players. I think DeBoer was a good hire, and I'm not saying that he's a bad coach. What I'm saying is that I think Alabama is contenders for the SEC still. Yes, don't get me wrong, but also if you lose 3 games this year as an Alabama fan, you cannot call for DeBoer's head. It's his
Right.
first
I
year.
agree, but
You
Yeah,
have to
there is a
you have to
fine
let him
line.
to recruit and bring people in.
I
And I think you don't this year. What you want if you're Alabama fan, if you're an Alabama fan, yes, everybody wants their team to win the national championship. We can all agree on that. But let's be realistic here, Dalton. You're a true diehard Alabama fan. You just want to see DeBoer and the Crimson Tide be competitive in every game. That's essentially what you want to see. And
yes.
if you lose 2 of those games, that's fine, right? But that shows you that DeBoer's heading down the right path. I think DeBoer's in a better spot than Moore, and I think that that's a better hire. I think DeBoer's a better hire. All I'm saying is, as Alabama fans, just need to give him more than 1 year
but
to be able to prove
my
himself.
my argument, I agree with the statement to an extent, but there is a very fine line between a 3-loss and a 4-loss team here, and even a 3-loss team. And the reason that I say that is I think that right now the only leg that Kalen DeBoer has to stand on is the fact that he's created such good programs, and he's been able to create such good programs in year 1. But obviously, we all agree that the SEC is built different. This is a completely different conference. If you look at a 3-loss team or even a 4-loss team, I think if he hits that 4-loss mark, people are going to be coming at his head. And the reason that I say that is because it's going to be really hard. His job of recruiting has gotten so much harder because now they're now looking at Alabama has now entered this new era. They are no longer a top dog in the SEC, and that's going to be what he has to battle. And I think that his recruiting hit's going to take. This is a big year one for him, a big year one. I think 3 losses is going to be detrimental to this team. I agree as fans.
Okay, but
let this guy come in. Let this
three losses by like 14 points, or like
3 losses in general.
3 losses by
No blowout.
Three losses in general.
If you lose on a last second field goal, I mean,
they don't care about
but that's
that.
different.
They don't. I mean,
like,
I agree. We can go into if you lose all 3 games by 3 points, that doesn't matter. Like, people go to Alabama because of the hype, because of what that could lead to professionally, what that leads to the next level. If all of that is gone and lost, yeah, it's the standard. It really is the standard. And being able to say, yeah, built by Bama, if that is all gone, what is the point? You know, like we see colleges go through this all the time. Like, he's going to lose. What do you recruit? You know, it's just it's a big deal for him.
Portal is such a big thing in college football these days. I feel like, well, I mean, look at the guys that he brought in Washington from the portal.
Right, but like, and I don't want our listeners to get all delusioned and like, let's not. What I also want to mention is Kalen DeBoer is currently ranked 2nd in recruiting this year, 2nd with 4 5-stars. He's doing
how
great.
How much of those recruits were from Saban though?
Yeah, but it's the fact that
you can sit here and talk about Alabama's draft class, but how many of those kids did he actually go and like say like, hey, come to Alabama?
But that's not it. But it's how many people that he's actually retained. He lost a lot of recruits, and a lot of those recruits came back. Ryan Williams, the 5-star, he stayed. We also got a bunch of other ones that also came. It's not the fact that Nick Saban got him. It's the fact that Nick Saban did bring him on. But Kalen DeBoer, when he came onto the scene late, he's actually able to retain him. We lost Caleb Downs. We lost Isaiah Bond. We lost Niblack to Texas. We lost people. Even though Nick Saban recruited him, technically he did too by keeping him. And not only that, but for the 2025 class, Alabama's currently ranked number 1. We lead the nation with 5.
I get it, but that's exactly what I'm saying.
All by Kalen DeBoer.
I agree. I agree, but again,
it's going to be based on what y'all's performance is this year. Is what
I get what
you're saying, DJ.
It's a huge year for.
You're going to see how good. You're going to see how good he is based on your recruiting class next year.
But that's what I'm saying though. Is like, I'm not worried about his ability to recruit. He's done so well so far that now it's going to come down to the play on the field. So I'm not worried about his ability to recruit in the SEC. That was my argument. Was DJ was saying recruiting has gotten so much harder. He's now in the SEC. Well, my argument is I'm not worried about it because he's ranked number 2 this year and number 1 currently next year. So now all that he's got to do is play good, fucking win. Because I'm not worried about your recruiting, bro. You're doing amazing in the SEC and what you've walked into. So that's all I'm saying.
It's just so hard these days because like you see kids be committed to, say, Alabama all the way up till signing day and flop to A&M. They flop to Texas. They'll flop to Tennessee. They'll flop to Florida.
Yeah.
So you just
NIL,
don't.
Bro,
you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, shit can change. You got to win.
That's
all. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, as a Texas fan, you know,
money.
I don't know how everyone stands about all the recruiting and the NIL deal and everything that's been going on, but as a Texas fan, as a college football fan, I think the NIL deal can kind of ruin college a little bit here and there, you know. But as a Texas fan, I kind of like it because Texas has got a lot of money.
There's got to be regulations on it, just because Texas can afford anybody, Oregon can afford anybody. That's kind of a discussion for a whole nother day.
Yeah,
Oregon's got Oregon fucking pocket, dude.
Yeah, Oregon's got that Nike money though. You know what I mean?
Texas has got that tech money. Texas got that tech money. There's a lot of money. That's what I'm saying though. Like it's kind of a crazy it's a crazy world. I love the NIL, but there definitely needs to be regulations with it on, you know, how much can actually be spent, promised, guaranteed, any of that stuff.
Texas has got roles, but Oregon's got fucking banned, bro.
I think Texas might have a little bit more money than Oregon.
I don't know.
I don't
Nike's
know.
Could be
crazy.
wrong.
Phil
I don't-
Knight said he'd
it's-
spend anything to see them win a championship.
That's true. I don't.
That's a good
I don't
topic
know.
for next episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's it.
So
It's-
this is Alabama's schedule up here,
right.
right?
So
Up
so
on-
look, this is what
if
this
you're
is.
I like
looking
our
at-
schedule, bro. I
Hold
like our
up.
schedule.
I was gonna say if you're looking at the schedule, the Georgia game that's going to be a toss up,
home.
right?
That's at home. Well, with us, I
It,
would
it
say
is at home, but Georgia's Georgia. They're still good. So I mean, not to rub it in, but Texas did go in there and beat you by 10 last year. So I mean, it's a possibility. But what the dark horse of the SEC this year, the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
Missouri can. I think if anybody sleeps on this Missouri team, they will beat you whether they're on the road or at home. And I think Missouri can give Alabama a run for their money. Now, I'm not saying Missouri can beat them, but I think Missouri will be competitive and keep that game close.
That's what I'm saying. I really like the schedule because the games that I think are going to be tough are all at home. Because if you look at what we've got in Georgia, that's at home. Missouri's at home, and Auburn's at home. The only game I'm worried about is fucking Tennessee and LSU. That's the only two games I'm fucking worried about.
yeah. So with that
look
said,
at that gauntlet though, right there. Like in that part of the schedule, you're on the road at Tennessee, which playing at Rocky Top, and probably going to be a night game. Seems like it could be dangerous, and then you play Missouri at home, and then on the road at Death Valley. I mean, that's a good three stretch right there. 3 games.
that's exactly so. The books have currently set Alabama's lines at 9.5. It is a 12-game season. Where do we see them going? Finishing over or under 9.5? That means that they can lose 2 games, be at 10, finish the season 10-2. They hit the over, or are they losing 3?
10-2. I think they finished the season 10-2. But one of the games that Alabama does not need to sleep on is this game at Wisconsin.
I agree. Wisconsin, I'll tell you right now, I think that they finished
That environment
I think that,
at night, boys,
yeah,
is electric.
Jump up, and get down.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But
I think there's 4
I
games
think
in
they
there that
can
I'm kind of
escape the
worried
win.
about. I think that they should worry about the Wisconsin, the Georgia, the Tennessee, and the LSU. Y'all, we kind of all mentioned those already. It's hard to imagine that they win 2 of
Fucking Auburn
4.
in there too.
Throw Auburn in there too. So it's
was
hard
gonna
to
say,
say
Auburn
again.
always
I'm going with
plays
the
them
under
hard,
on
though.
their. I'm going with the under on their over under here. You can even see that the under is kind of favorited. All the overs on here are plus odds. We got plus 110, plus 100, plus 104, plus 105, plus 116.
Dalton goes,
Okay,
"Damn."
look, but like I'm biased for Bama, but DJ is totally unbiased for Bama. Like
100%.
As biased as I am, DJ's fucking vote and everything he says is just as fucking unbiased as my
Not at all.
biases.
Not at all.
I think
Dude, you
I
fucking
think-
hate Bama, bro.
That's
more than
okay, look,
anybody
look.
I fucking know.
I dislike Bama as
Don't
much
take
as the
DJ's
next-
under. Don't listen to that.
I dislike
He fucking hates
Bama. I dislike Bama as much as the next guy. I think Bama goes 10-2. But
I think that's fair. I think
they
10-2
need to
is
be
fair.
they need to be careful at Wisconsin. They need to be careful at Wisconsin.
We need to be careful with all them bitches. Fucking
Yeah,
snap
but
the guy that damn ball right here.
The 3-game stretch that's going to be hard is the at Tennessee versus Missouri, then at LSU. That's I think it's going to be hard to win all 3 of those games.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that the way that their schedule is set up, it's not. I'm not rooting for Alabama's downfall just because in my mind I don't view Alabama as a championship contender. That's all that I want. I don't care where Alabama finishes. I just don't want them to be the champion. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of these repeat offenders. That's all I care about. I don't view Alabama as that in my mind, so I don't care. I realistically, though, even if they walk away with Wisconsin, typically I think I would say that they win that game versus Wisconsin. I do not think that they beat Georgia. Yes, you're at home. I just do not think that you beat this Georgia team, and then you go on that 3-game stretch of the Tennessee, Missouri, LSU. That's still not. Then you still got to go play the Iron Bowl versus Auburn. Like, there's a lot of what ifs. It's a tough schedule, and he lost 30 players. Was able to only get 6 transfers to come his way.
Well, like I said, let's not forget what he's done with programs before. I know SEC is tough, but he has a track record of coming in year one and being highly, highly successful. Now, that's not always the case with every coach, but Kalen DeBoer has proven it over and over again at multiple programs, and now he's
He didn't
walking
have
into the
I don't
best
think he had
program
a
he's
great
ever had
first
year
year in
one.
Washington. I don't think he had a great year one in Washington, did he?
I don't know off
I
the
don't
top
even
of
know what.
I don't know off the top of my head, but again,
I just
I think that's like everyone views Bama as like the win now team. So I know we've
yeah, I'm just looking at this 3-stretch game, but if we're talking about the hardest schedule in the SEC, that'd be the Florida Gators. I don't know if y'all seen their schedule, but
they
God Almighty, boys!
yeah, they do
They're
have
saying Billy. They're saying Billy Napier, right? That's their
yeah.
right. That's their
Yeah,
coach for 'em.
Napier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're saying he's on the hot seat. You might as well just go ahead and fucking fire him because he's not coming out of that schedule
Well, the
six
only reason he
six and
went
six.
there was because of his ability to recruit. He was known as one of the best recruiters in the country, and the fact that he's like where they're at right now, it's like, dude, if we brought him in to be a recruiter and he's not recruiting, what the fuck is he here for?
Dude,
Right.
I think now. Correct me if I'm wrong. They play Georgia. I think they play Tennessee. I think they play Missouri. They play Texas. I think they also play A&M. Like you'd have to double check me on that, but I think they definitely have the hardest schedule in all
I
the
think
SEC.
yeah, as I say, no, no, I think it's already been announced that they have the hardest schedule in college football.
Yeah, I would agree 110%. I was looking at it the other day. Yeah, here we go. I pulled it up. They have Mississippi State, then they got UCF, which is fine, but then they're on the road at Tennessee, at home against Kentucky, and they got to play Georgia, Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss, and then Florida State, all back to back to back.
Oh man.
So they come off the UCF game, and then they play Tennessee in Knoxville, at home against Kentucky, away against Georgia, or on the road against Georgia, on the road against Texas, at home against LSU, at home against Ole Miss, and on the road against Florida State.
Man,
That's
what the
tough.
fuck they
That's
do
the
to
back
SEC?
half of their season.
The hell,
Who in the
who
fuck at
they
Florida
piss off,
pissed
bro?
off the NCAA? Who did they
That's what I'm
fucking piss
saying.
off?
Yeah, no, that's insane. That is a tough schedule. But we do have one more coach that's just now taking over a team of the most recent champions, and that is Sharon Moore of the Michigan Wolverines. Looking at his
I wouldn't
list
go
of
there.
losses to the transfer portal, he only had 11 compared to Alabama's 20. And this is not would you take Michigan or would you take Alabama? It's do you buy the hype of Michigan? Michigan's coming in as a top 10 team. Alabama was coming in as a top 10 team. Do we think that that's Michigan? They, through the transfer portal, lost 11 players, only kept 2. Or added 2, not kept 2, sorry. Only added 2 players.
Lost 13 in the draft, too, though.
They also
Yeah,
lost
13.
13.
They
Right.
lost a lot of people.
They
lost.
also lost.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They lost everybody, bro.
Yeah. I mean, and again, number wise, I think Alabama had 20 transfers, 10 through the draft, 30 total. Michigan lost 11 through the portal, 13 to the draft, 24 total. So that's what I'm saying. These two teams that these new coaches are taking over for are vastly different. So I think that the biggest question mark kind of surrounding this Michigan team was that quarterback. They didn't address that need at all. The 2 players that they got, interior offensive lineman, linebacker, through the transfer portal. They're kind of going a full sell on the quarterbacks that they already had on that roster, and they didn't address it with J.J. McCarthy on his way out.
Look. The only thing that Michigan has for them right now is they won the national championship last year. But you're not going to sit here and tell me that Michigan's going to go undefeated again. There's no way they go undefeated again. They can't. I don't know why you would go there to begin with because the whole scandal that's been going on right now, and I still don't know what's happening with that. Right? We don't know what's going to happen with that. I know Harbaugh's been he's suspended for a full year if he ever comes back to the NCAA. But
kind of crazy how fast he got out of there to that national championship.
Yeah, he said see you later, but I don't know. I'm not hopping on the Michigan train. Not by any means. I mean, your conference just got harder, so if you look at what Michigan, like they're literally the past years, the only game that they're ever worried about every year losing is the Ohio State game. And maybe Penn State, but it's like every time they play Penn State, it's like one year they mollywop the shit out of them, and the next year it's a close game, but Michigan still wins. So, but now you got to worry about USC. Now you got to worry about Oregon. You know what I mean? So Ohio State, I don't think they beat Ohio State this year. Not a chance.
Yeah. Like
Okay, so
even
look
looking
at
at
the
their
schedule.
schedule, it's tough. Like you're saying, Nathan, they got Texas, USC. I'm telling you right now, I am not buying the
I'm
hype.
not buying
I
the
am
hype.
over
No.
the Lincoln Riley talk so
Yes.
much. The number one draft pick, Caleb Williams, and they still couldn't do anything as a team. I'm so over
They
that
still got a
project.
pretty easy schedule though. Like
Well, I
look at
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say
Well,
that. They Texas,
Northwestern, Indiana. No, they
sure.
okay. Now correct y'all can correct me if I'm wrong here, okay? And I might be a little biased, but they will lose to Texas week 2.
I
Y'all say what
100%.
y'all want. I
I
look,
think they lose the Texas.
I've been loyal. I've been loyal. I've been a loyal Texas fan. And in the recent years, it has been a struggle to be a Texas Longhorns fan. It worse than being a Cowboys fan. Okay.
That's saying something.
And Michigan lost a lot of people. Texas lost pretty good people too, but they also got a lot of people in the portal. And we still have a lot of guys returning. And Quinn Ewers is still going to be there. Unfortunately, we did just lose our running back, but we got Jadon Blue that's going to step up. I think they lose the Texas game. I think it's just inexperience. They lost a lot of people. You're not really going to know how good your team is playing Fresno State. So I think they lose the Texas game. I think they lose the Oregon game. And I think they lose the Ohio State game.
Okay,
That's what I was
so
gonna say. But what if they end up losing to like fucking Fresno State? They're not gonna do that, but I hope not. But what if they end up losing like a game like the USC game or the Indiana game? Like, what the fuck are they gonna say about him now? You know, what happens to the Michigan program if that happens when they lose a game they're not supposed to? What if they go
If
6-4 or 5-5?
if he loses 3 games, I think he's in a bigger hot seat than DeBoer is. If DeBoer loses 3 games,
see, and that's hard too. It was an internal hire.
I mean, they were ready to cut Harbaugh out.
They were. I don't think
Only because he couldn't beat Ohio State. Remember his first couple years, he could not beat Ohio State, and they were ready to fire him just because he couldn't beat one team. Imagine if you lose to Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State in your first year.
right. Which again, what are the expectations though of this Michigan team right now? Looking at the books,
I fully believe that their board and athletic director believes that they should go undefeated. Honestly, I think that's what they think.
I
Every
think
director says that.
yeah, you're right. I think the expectation for them, a realistic expectation, would be to make the college football playoffs as a 12 seed, as the 11 seed. If Moore can do that within his first season, I think that this season is a success. With as much turnover and key players that they lost and addressed really zero needs, I think that realistically that's the expectation. So if we look at the books right now, 4 out of the 5 books displayed are offering this line at an even 9. I'm not doing that. We're going with the half-point line. FanDuel is the only one offering it at 8.5. This is a 12-game season. We're going based off of just the regular season. I know that, like, sure, you can look at the bowl game. We're not doing any of that. We're looking at just these 12 games. Do we think they go over or under? Do they go 9-3, still hit the over, or do they go 8-4 and hit the under? Because we already
don't see anybody else they can really lose to. I mean,
yeah, it's because I agree. It's the
look,
Texas, it's the Oregon, it's the Ohio State. Out of who is left of those 3 teams, realistically, who is the team that they really could lose to? I'm not really
don't
sure.
really know, but it's also how bad. Look, we're gonna piss off some Michigan fans here. Y'all have beat the dog shit out of Ohio State the past couple of years, and hats off to it. I was happy to see it. I really
Piss them
was.
off, Nathan. Piss them off.
No, I was happy to see Michigan beat the shit out of Ohio State the past couple of years because I got tired of Ohio State just fucking winning against Michigan all the time. I don't know why it irritated me, but Michigan fans, I'm happy that y'all beat the fucking shit out of them the past 2 years. I'm happy about it. But going into this college football season, who is the number one team in all of college football right now? Ohio State. It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
The people that they have, the talent that they have, the recruits they brought in. If you ask me right now who the number one team in college football is right now, the best overall team in all college football, I'm going to say the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I think Texas is one of the top fives. I think Oregon's in the top five. I think Bama could be in the top five. So Georgia. But their playoff bid is going to come down to the Texas-Ohio State game, in my opinion. If you do lose to Texas and you do lose to Ohio State, you have to lose in a close game. If you get beat by Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State by 10-plus points, you could lose your bid in the college football playoff.
I think so, because I think that puts them in a position where they can't compete in their conference championship. And I think that the new structure makes it entirely difficult for teams who do not compete in their conference championship. It makes it pretty hard to get in. So, I mean,
I don't think they compete in the Big Ten.
I
think they compete because they play Illinois, they play Washington,
Oh,
they play
they'll
Minnesota,
compete,
they'll play
but
Indiana, Northwestern. It's going to come down to if they lose the Texas game, if they lose the Oregon game, if they lose the Ohio State game, it's going to come down to how many points did they lose by. If Texas beats you, if you beat Texas, great. You can afford to lose to Oregon and Ohio State. You can. And probably still make the playoff. Michigan can do that if you beat Texas. If you lose to Texas by 10 plus, you beat Oregon, and then you lose to Ohio State by, say, 17, you're probably out of the playoff.
That is the unfortunate thing with college football. It comes down to the timing. And unfortunately, I think regardless,
that being the last game on the schedule,
it's going to kill them. If they can sneak a game away from Oregon, that's going to be a lot for them. Just because I think that that's going to push them pretty far up the rankings, being able to sneak a game away from Oregon. So that way, when they lose to Ohio State, I don't think the Texas game has as much value. I just think that this is going to hand them a loss.
Matchup.
It is
it's a top five matchup.
It's gonna, but if they lose, exactly. If they win, it speaks everything. If they lose, it's almost the expectation. I'm so ready for that line to be released. Like, what is that? I think that line's got to open up at roughly minus 16.5, minus 17 in Texas's favor. They've got to be a 3-score difference. Right? That's how that is going to be the expectation. It's almost, yes, they're going to lose that game. And I think, again, that is just, it's too early on in the season where I don't think that game is going to have too much of an impact.
Beats them by 16. I think it's going to be a good football game, in my opinion. I think Texas will come out on top just because of more. I think Texas will win because they have more experience. I think this is going to be a young Michigan football team.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I do think that they still end up going on their over if we're looking at it at 8.5. Even FanDuel is heavily favoring it at minus 162, and I think it's outside of their 3 hardest games. There's really not a whole lot of teams that they face that they're not really worse than, right? And I think it's
I was about to say, other than Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, it's a pretty easy schedule.
Right, I agree.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, but that could put a lot of pressure on them too, because they know if we can lose 3 games, we might be able to. If we keep those games close, we could sneak into the top 12 into the playoffs. But if they lose one of those games outside of those 3 teams, you're done.
Yeah.
But I think if the Michigan fans, if you lose 3 games and you lose 3 games that we're talking about, the Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State game, if you lose those 3 games and you lose by 10 plus, you're probably going to be out of the playoff.
Well, especially 2 losses in the last 4 weeks of the season.
Yes,
that's a hard time to take 2 losses and have an argument that you are a top 12 team. It's a very hard argument.
I don't want to piss any of our listeners off because
Piss them off,
like,
Nathan. Let us know what you think.
I don't give a fuck.
I mean, I can't really talk shit because Texas was good last year, but you look past that, it's kind of been like a fuck, here we go again type thing. You know what I mean? But I think Michigan's going to be young, and I'm not saying that they're not a good football team. Michigan is always a very good football team. They always have been. They're very competitive, and they're a very hard team to play. It's just you lost a lot of really good athletes, and that sucks as a Michigan fan. That sucks as any fan ever, right? If your team is really good and you look at like, damn, like we had a great team last year, but a lot of them went to the draft.
Yeah.
So it's like now you have these younger guys got to step up, and, kind of, and they're going to make mistakes. They're not going to be as good and as reliable as the guys that were on their team last year. I think Michigan, y'all are a great football team. You continue to be a great football team. I think you could beat Oregon. I really do. I think that's going to be one hell of a football game. I really do. I think you lose the Texas game to inexperience because it's early in the year. It's week 2. You're opening up against Fresno State. You're not going to you're going to beat the dog shit out of them. So it's not going to be a true test. You're not going to.
Nope.
Texas is going to be a hard competition with the amount of people that they have coming back. I think Sarkisian's one of the best play callers in all of college football with the way his movement and stuff. And Texas has more experience. And I think that's why Texas will win the football game, just because they have more experience.
Look, I think
the Michigan team will have.
I think only time will tell, and we'll find out soon. But at the end of the day, I think that Michigan's and Alabama's gonna have their hands full this year with 2 new coaches. So yeah, I'm excited for the season to start and just see where we're at, and just let us know in the comments, guys, what y'all think. What do y'all think about Michigan? What do y'all think about? Go ahead and piss me off too. It's what makes college football fun. I don't give a shit. So hit us up. So
jump in my boat. Jump in my boat. I'm not buying the hype of either one of these guys.
Yeah,
especially Alabama.
DJ's boat fucking sunk already.
Right.
Yeah, he's a Baylor fan, so you can't really piss him off.
He ain't got a boat.
They're doing it for me.